We move over to South Asia now, where Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrived in Sri Lanka on Friday. Modi was received at the airport by Sri Lankan Foreign Minister Viyutha Herath as he began his official visit aimed at deepening bilateral ties. This is Prime Minister Modi's first visit since Sri Lankan President Anura Kumara Dissanayake took charge last year. It also comes after Dissanyake's visit to India in December, his first state visit since assuming office. Modi is expected to hold talks with President Anura Kumara Dissanayake and sign several agreements, including a defence pact that would expand existing cooperation to cover joint military exercises and maritime surveillance. Among the memoranda of understanding to be signed is one of the Indo-Lanka electricity grid connectivity project, which will link Mannar in Sri Lanka to southern India via an undersea cable. Sri Lanka's government said the initiative is part of its broader aim to become an energy hub, noting that the grid connection would enable the country to export surplus renewable energy to India and potentially other nations in the region. We are now joined by Megha Sharma, Executive Editor of NewsX World. Thank you very much for joining us, Megha. Megha, you are in Sri Lanka currently. What can you tell us about this meeting that Modi will have with the Sri Lankan leader?
Yes, that's the most anticipated point of this three-day visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who is right now in Colombo, and he is being escorted by President of Sri Lanka, Anura Kumara Dissanayake. And we just saw visuals on your screen that are playing this beautiful, vivid imagery of the ceremonial welcome, the guard of honor that Prime Minister of the country received from the Sri Lankan President. We saw the tri-services and the troops that were marching along the bands, which is the protocol that is followed by when a head of state arrives in Sri Lanka, and something similar that is done in India as well with that 21-gun salute. We saw, the ministers from the Indian side, the Indian delegation that came along with Prime Minister Narendra Modi included the Foreign Minister of the country, Mr. S. Jaishankar. We also saw the Foreign Secretary, Vikram Misri, who was also part of that delegation. From the side of the Sri Lankan government, we saw the Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, who made her presence felt over there. We also saw the Foreign Minister who was present at the moment, met the Prime Minister as well when the Prime Minister took a tour and met with the other dignitaries who were present, along with the tri-services chiefs of Sri Lanka. Now, it's going to be a hectic day for the Prime Minister and the President, and of course all the delegations who are at this point of time accompanying both the leaders of the state. Right now we're getting to know that there is a closed door restricted meeting that is taking place between both the leaders. Now, what are going to be the contours of this meeting that is going to decide what steps are taken ahead for India and Sri Lanka to forge and foster their ties further is a question that will be answered in just a few hours from once the joint press statement is released by both the leaders and their sides. But interesting enough to know that there has been, it's been the talk of the town, the 8 MOUs that had to be signed, that was the part of discussions when there were press briefings being held by the Ministry of External Affairs here in India, and also at the time when 6 months ago the President of Sri Lanka, Dissanayake, had arrived in India, and him wanting to focus on fostering of ties, trade ties and bilateral ties between both nations is something that is going to be, thought is going to put in it when those MOUs are signed. Key amongst them are likely to be defense cooperation, we're talking about maritime security and trade, we're talking about connectivity, and we're talking about energy infrastructure. There is one very important inauguration that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is going to be doing, which is going to happen virtually today during the course of the day after this bilateral meeting, restricted talks get over, and that is the Sampur solar power project that is going to be launched. This has been, this project has been lagging for the last 20 years. This has been a substantive Indian investment that has gone into it, and finally it comes to a culmination after Prime Minister inaugurates in 2025. Remember, it was the foundation stone of it was laid in 2006, so it's been almost 20 years, and for some reason or the other, government changes, some sort of conflict, some sort of friction has led to the slowing down of the completion of the project, which finally under Prime Minister Narendra Modi's third term has gotten completed. Besides that, there is going to be one very important, significant, symbolic gesture that is going to be made by the Prime Minister of India. He will be headed to the Indian Peacekeeping Troops Memorial, which is in Colombo. Now, this was set up decades ago. This was after the 1987 civil war that had happened in Sri Lanka, where India had sent its peacekeeping troops to maintain peace and ensure there was no conflict. There were 2,100 of our Indian soldiers that died and sacrificed their lives in this mission, and the Prime Minister is going to pay his tribute after these talks and the MOUs and the meetings with the business delegations and commissions that are over there is going to get over. And well, after that, it's going to be later in the evening at 7:15 p.m. And then up to his hotel. This is Prime Minister for the next few.
Thank you, Sharma, for move on.